Okay, so today I want to talk about the Sabbath and church. And I'm doing this because I've responded to a comment on the newest video, Faith versus Law. So let's go ahead and have a look at this. I want you to read together with me, so you have it on the screen there. So do we go to church on Saturday like Seventh-day Adventists want us to believe, or go with Colossians 2:16? This is Jose Sevilla. He's a subscriber to our channel. And here's my reply. The confusion is over keeping the Sabbath holy and going to church. They are not the same thing. For in Acts 2:46 through 47 we find, and they continuing daily with one accord in the temple, and breaking bread from house to house, did eat their meat with gladness and singleness of heart, praising God and having favor with all the people. And the Lord added to the church daily such as should be saved. They went to church daily. In which Protestant church can you go daily? None. You can in the Catholic Church, for they have Mass daily, but you can also preach the gospel. And those God adds to your number will be able to meet with you in a house. Then you can meet daily. It is a shocking counterculture request for believers to meet daily in one accord. Imagine if we did, though. Hebrews chapter 4 is perhaps the most important chapter in the Bible on the Sabbath, for it speaks of it quite differently than any church does, even Seventh-day Adventists, who are the advocates of the Sabbath in the church, if they are truly in the church belonging to Christ. This chapter starts off by claiming that the promise of the Sabbath still exists today. But the author does not name it at the start. Instead, he refers to what that promise is: enter his rest. But he juxtaposes a warning to fear that promise by measuring ourselves according to that promise. For the rest from all of our work on the Sabbath was given as a blessing from man, not a burden. Let us therefore fear lest a promise being left us of entering into his rest, any of you should seem to come short of it. Then in verse 2, the author makes a fascinating statement that the gospel that has been preached to us was also preached to the Hebrews in the desert. For if you read the end of chapter 3, you find out he had been talking about them. 3:15. While it is said, today if you will hear his voice, harden not your hearts as in the provocation. For some, when they had heard, did provoke, howbeit not all that came out of Egypt by Moses. But with whom was he grieved 40 years? Was it not with them that had sinned, whose carcasses fell in the wilderness? Verse 18. And to whom sware he that they should not enter into his rest, but to them that believed not? So we see that they could not enter in because of unbelief. Now, notice how disobedience is unbelief. This is one of the clearest passages here that ties together sinning, which is disobedience, sinning, with unbelief. That if you sin, you do not believe. If you sin, you do not have faith. Faith is what keeps us in obedience. That's why Jacob said, faith without deeds is dead, as the body without the spirit is dead. Faith keeps us in obedience. That's why we can be judged by our works. So disbelief is what could cause us to come short of his rest. And because of this, that should be they fell in the desert, dead. And why did the gospel not profit them? But the word preached did not profit them, not being mixed with faith in them that heard it. If we hear the gospel but do not actively combine it with faith, then it profits us nothing. We end up not entering his rest. For that rest is a rest in the heart first, and then a rest in the body as well. For the author of Hebrews reveals, For he that is entered into his rest, he also hath ceased from his own works, as God did from his. For what does entering his rest have to do with ceasing from our own works? Notice it's our own works. Were they not the same thing? No, but they are dependent on each other. For you have not truly ceased from your physical works if in your heart you have not entered his rest through faith combined with the preached gospel today and every day. So we see that we must hear the gospel daily. That's why they met daily in the church. Combine it with faith daily, enter his rest daily, and cease from our own works daily. But then, if nobody works, how will we eat? But we do not cease from works altogether, only from our own works. For daily we must meet with the Father and learn from him what his specific will is for us this day. Then we must do the works of God, which are the only good works in our life, pleasing and acceptable to God who alone is good. That's why Jesus could heal on the Sabbath. And these are the works that will count toward righteousness for the answering of our prayers today, and for our deliverance of salvation in the final judgment into eternal life. For through faith we are delivered from the whole collection of individuals. By faith we are rescued from sin and its bondage already. And so we walk in the light as he is in the light, with no darkness at all. And faith, as it lives bodily in the works of God in our lives, will deliver us into eternal life of peace and rest with God and with the Lamb in the city of God. Also, Paul is not arguing against the law of God in Colossians. He's arguing against the commandments of men, if it is read in context. Also, the word respect means allotment. That's in verse 16. Respect means allotment and has nothing to do with respect of something. Literally, it means allotment. So, Colossians 2:16 properly translated by the literal words would be rendered, certainly no one must divide by decision upon you in eating or in drinking or in an allotment of a festival or of a new moon or of Sabbaths. So you can see that it is not the Sabbath in particular, but the distribution of festivals, as well as the eating and the drinking at them, which were the problems. There were some wanting to write their own restrictions and impose them on the believers regarding these matters. That is seen when reading the whole chapter in context. So this cannot be used as a text to say that Paul wanted to do away with the Sabbath, or that he supported some Christians doing away with the Sabbath. Should we keep the Sabbath? Why not? It was made for the body of man. It was practiced by God himself. It was ordained as a blessing by God to man. Those sound like three good reasons to observe the Sabbath. But should we keep it on Saturday? Why not? It was ordained by God on Saturday. God has not changed his mind. It is not the same issue as going to church. We can see that by the early church meeting daily, not weekly. Choose when and how often you will go to church, preferably daily. Let the body rest on Saturday. The word Saturday in some languages is the same as the word for Sabbath, like the Slavic languages. Why would you purposely resist the commands of God? If you still find your heart fighting this instruction, then the problem is not with Saturday, but with your heart. And Hebrews 4 makes it clear that this disobedience will cause you to fall in the desert, even if you do observe Saturday as the Sabbath and physically rest. Stop disobeying God. Humble yourself and obey God. May the Lord bless you as you seek Him with all your heart. Remember to subscribe down below and like the video and share it on your Facebook and other social media. And then make a comment, whether a question or a comment. We read all of them, and we try to respond to all. Get on over to our website, The Rooted Word, and start reading the translation and also the articles we've posted. It's at therootedword.com, therootedword.com. And may the Lord bless you as you seek Him with all your heart.